If you're a legal marketer, chances are your law firm's LinkedIn page has a little bit of room for improvement. Stay tuned as we talk with Ian Mountford, a social media strategist, about how law firms really should be using LinkedIn with the intention of generating new clients and how the business development and marketing teams can support this effort. So if you want to participate in upcoming videos like this and ask questions to our industry experts, head on over to bdroundtable.com to sign up for a free membership. When you do, you get access to exclusive content and you'll be invited to join our private Slack group community where there's hundreds of peers like yourself. Now here's Ian. All right, so Ian, thanks so much for joining us today. This is a very, very hot topic that most of the BD Roundtables have been thinking about a lot. I know in my career, I've been really antagonizing a bit, like what should a law firm LinkedIn page do, right? So we're thankful to have you on the call today to really drill into some of these details. But I want to start off with the whole idea of the purpose of LinkedIn for law firms.
Yeah.
And do clients really use LinkedIn to research and find lawyers? Like, is that something that companies are doing, you know?
So there's a classic example, right, from 2010 that should frame this for everybody on this call to understand how it can happen. Now, 2010 is a long time ago, and there's a lot of things that have gone under the bridge since then, but these tools were being used then to make this stuff work. If I run through this case, you'll start to hopefully see the difference between what a company does and what an individual does, and how the context of the discussion will hopefully flow to the point where we can see both of these things working together, right? Because it's no longer a kind of individual versus a company. It's both parts working together that has the biggest effect. So this story back in 2010, I had a friend who built an app. I was in London. I was working in a law firm. I was recruiting for a law firm. So I've been using LinkedIn for a little bit. And my friend was given some venture cap money, told that he needed to go and acquire another firm. And it was just, here's 5 names, go and research these people and give one of them the work and bring the name back to us, and off we'll go and we'll do the deal. My friend had no idea what LinkedIn was about. He didn't really know law firms at all. He was a proper geek to the point where he had no interest in needing to know what it was, and he just saw a piece of paper with 5 names on it. So he came to me and we sat down and we looked at each person. We didn't go to websites. We didn't go to partner pages and profiles. We went straight to LinkedIn 10 years ago, right? So we went through these 5 profiles. The first was, we typed it in, it was a gentleman, no profile photo, just an egg, partner at X firm, been there 25 plus years, no other information, no contact details. We drew a line through him straight away. Next, we looked at 2 who were quite similar. One of them had the classic husband's arm around the wife picture, and the wife was chopped out. And all of the characteristics of a profile that had a bit of thought gone into it, but not really the right kind of information. So it explained a little bit about the firm, and it told us about how great that lawyer was and all of their awards and all the things that they've done to make themselves look amazing. But it didn't really explain much about M&A, which was what we were looking for. That was the information that we needed. And it missed out a few critical things that I wanted to know, which was how they were going to help my friend understand his problem. So these next 2, we put them to one side because we weren't sure whether they were going to work or not. But I was probably about 30% convinced on those 2. just on the basis that the first one was so bad and the next two were a little bit better. So then we looked at the final two, and one was a female, one was a male. The female profile was set up in a way that did everything to make us know really quickly that that profile made sense for us to find out more information about them. So we were right on the front page. We saw all the information that was pertinent. It explained who they helped. It didn't tell us too much about what they specifically did, but it said that they helped people looking to do technology M&A transactions. The gentleman's profile had a very similar setup, but it just said senior associate at X firm. And then you had to dig down a bit further to find out what their specific details were. We looked at articles from both that they'd both written. So they'd written a bit of content about what they did. But the thing that pushed us over the edge to go with the female was that she'd written a series of articles to explain what to do if you were in a transaction and you were looking to get advice from an M&A lawyer on how to go about the basics of that transaction, which the guy hadn't done. Her contact information was in her profile. And I would say today, 8 out of 10 lawyers don't have their contact information in their profile. Right? It's just the way it is. We picked up the phone. We didn't go to a website. We called her directly. A meeting was arranged for 3 days later, and I've got it written down somewhere so I know exactly how much it was. It was £650,000 of revenue in 8 months from that transaction that woman made. So
that was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago. So if you put that into perspective and think about how the woman had created her profile in a way that made it magnetic for me and my friend to be sitting there and go, this person can help us. It didn't have all the awards she'd won. It didn't show her on podiums doing lots of talking. It made very clear how she helped us. And we were like, yeah, she can do the job. Let's call her.
And it didn't take into any consideration about the firm, like the firm standing, or you really focused on the lawyer?
There were four out of 5 firms which were big. They were top 20 firms globally. So the list was it. You weren't going to have any issues that the firm was going to be problematic unless there was a clash of characters or personalities or that kind of thing. And at that stage, LinkedIn profiles were very basic, but you could still pack the right pieces of information in there if you were smart about how you used the tool. And that was the difference. We didn't see that from the others. We just didn't see it.
Yeah, and for someone who's never bought legal services, and I think a lot of the BD Roundtable members here have never bought a legal service in their life, and I think most lawyers can't even afford their own services. Yeah. It goes to think that, oh, well, you are working with the lawyer, right? You are engaging the lawyer. You're not engaging the firm as a whole. So really, you want to make sure you have a good connection with that lawyer and make sure you can actually get along well. So
it brings us to that second point about the importance of the individual's profile now against the company profile, right? So a lot's been made of company profiles and the big song and dance about they've got to have them, and some companies have got huge numbers of people that follow their company pages, but the company content they put out is pretty basic. They're using it as a kind of look at us, aren't we brilliant type of thing, right? Now, if you're trying to win a competition on who looks the best in terms of having lawyers who have the most awards and we're on another podium talking about X and Y and Z, that's a competition that very few of your clients are really that bothered about. You're bothered about it as firms because it makes you all feel brilliant. but I'm a client sat at the other side of the computer, and I need to know who can do the work for me. Now, there is the argument, of course, that an award does give credibility to an extent, and you do need to have that credibility out there. But to me, I'd much rather see constant contact that solve problems for clients and explain to them how that problem can get solved by working with them.
Yeah, what I would like to do, I was thinking about doing for our firm, is take a look at all the posts from the last year and classify them into self-promotion and value, right, to clients,
Yeah,
and see what the percentage is. And I think we
yeah,
would all be quite ashamed about how much we're talking about ourselves.
correct,
And I
correct.
always sort of use the comparison, like let's say you go to a networking event, right? And you meet someone, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, I won this award, and I spoke at this event," and um,
Oh,
yeah, you would run away.
yeah.
Right?
It's interesting that so many lawyers are so busy. Okay, they're busy. Their time's billable. They make you guys on the support side run around after them. I've been in your shoes. I know what these guys do and what they're all about and how they operate. And it's not just the guys, it's the girls as well. And you know, your life is very difficult to balance all of the competing demands that you work with and the time restraints on you as an individual. I think that finding people that will support you within the billable hours crew, and that you'll see this as a kind of team thing. The best firms that understand how to play this game, they collaborate skills, and they understand the tool. I see so many business developers in law firms and marketers across the board, even communications people who don't understand how to make LinkedIn work at a very basic level.
Mm.
They're making mistakes day after day because we're at an interesting pivot inflection point here, because there are so many people on these tools all the time. Social media has become something that everybody uses all the time in various different ways. Now, because an individual can be good at, for instance, something like Instagram and get a lot of followers or get a lot of attention, that makes you, in your brain and in probably other people's brains, good at social media. But when I'm talking about professional social media, these two things are like black and white. So I find that a lot of people are interested in the how-to stuff because they want to improve their own profiles and work with social media. But the reality is, if you can't convert the attention that you get online into clients, into new business and into meetings and into the things that are the most valuable for your partner in the firm or the team that you're operating with, you know, you can get as many likes on a post as you want, as many reactions, but if you don't know how to then convert that stuff, it then becomes a little
Yeah,
bit invaluable.
and I want to touch upon in the Q&A the whole issue of conversions and measuring
Yeah.
conversions, because if it's not measured, then really there's not a lot of focus on it.
Yeah.
So if we accept, and we should, that LinkedIn can be used to, you know, drive revenue and it's not just a notice board, right? So let's say we all accept that. As a legal marketer or the BD manager, I'm responsible for the company's page, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then I will also support the lawyers in their LinkedIn engagement efforts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So starting on a LinkedIn company page, apart from the notice board type posts, which a few sprinkled here and there I think are okay, right?
They're okay. Of course they are. Yeah.
How would you recommend we structure and prepare the content? What are some like things we should be doing this week?
Okay.
What are some short, easy things we can do to provide value?
The first thing to get into your heads is that the person on the other end is interested in how you can help them.
Hmm.
If you if you put yourself in their position while you're writing and think to yourself after you've written something and you read it back and you think, does this add value for the person on the other end? So if you, there's very few firms that ask questions of their audience. You know, I'm seeing some of the big brands that are marketing to the industry doing very similar posts. They've got tens and hundreds of thousands of followers in some cases, and their content is just pushing this, look at us, look at us. Now, engagement is the way that social media works, right? We have to look at this as one-to-one conversations at scale. There is no, I've listened to some of the content that you guys have had and put out, and what's really interesting to me is that you've had conversations, and Kaushik that's on this call is probably going to be interested in this to a degree as well, that advertising and SEO and all these things that involve spend, if your content is really flat on your company page and all it is like another award and it's the promotional stuff rather than things like the A to Z of insolvency, or here's some useful information on 5 practical steps that you can take tomorrow to solve this problem, or and there's no evidence of a strategy behind it to help solve these problems for your clients. You will spend money on all this advertising and drive attention towards your pages. But if I land on your page and all there is a free book, you know, that everybody knows that free books gets put on a pile and never looked at. It's like white papers. Everybody sends you a white paper. You'll find, like I've got a white paper here from LinkedIn. They sent me this morning. Like, it's very difficult to get that content to actually change somebody's life and make them take some kind of action. So the answer to the question is to take a step back and think about what you can do to give value to that audience, depending on what team you're in, depending on what category you're in, depending who that buyer at the other end is you're trying to reach.
Yeah. Now, historically, in law firms, right, the BD managers, they will receive the pre-written content from the lawyers.
Yeah.
Right? And usually the tried and trusted content that lawyers provide are legal updates. Let's say there's a regulation change in some jurisdiction. They'll write a very legalistic explanation of what the change is. And then what we should be doing is the BD team should be taking that content and sort of translating it, right?
Yeah, totally.
And then hopefully we have a pretty decent few paragraphs of content that will provide some important updates for the business community. So let's say we're working with that as a base. What can we do to sort of repurpose that?
Exactly. So I see quite often a firm will even take a judgment. They'll take the document that's been put out by the press or whatever as a judgment, and they'll then share that as a document on LinkedIn. No one's going to read it.
No.
Right? You know, it's this big, you can't see it. And to me, that just hits the lazy button, because it's just, oh, I'll upload the document, I'll share the document.
Yeah.
We're going to say that our lawyer did it. Fantastic. Now, the same applies to sharing a photo of a lawyer on a podium doing a talk or a webinar. You may have seen my post from a little while ago about things that you can do instead of post that picture of everybody waving at the end of a webinar. Nobody cares that you had 10 people on a webinar and everybody was clapping.
But Ian, our lawyers care, and we work for them. So how can we?
But why do they? Would they care more though? Would they care more if you could show them some results at the end of it?
Yeah.
Now they care about the podium photo, and I understand putting the podium photo is good, but what they forget to do is summarize the talk and give the 5 takeaways from the talk instead of a link that goes to a blog post that's 5,000 words that nobody will get to. Because you think of this situation today, right? You've got half an hour between meetings, and that's the only time you can spend on LinkedIn, for instance. You've got to get through a few posts. You want to engage with your contacts in your network. You might react to a few. You might want to add a couple of comments on. If I put a post out there that's really deep, it's really long, it's got a link to go look at other things, I'm not going to click the link. If it's too long, I won't read it. So you have to think about brevity. You've got to, I'm recommending people at the moment, they write less than 300 words in a post. And if they can write a post in 100 words, that's even better. Because you've got that split second to stop somebody scrolling, and that's using headlines, maybe even using things like emojis as well, which people turn their nose up at. But this is the way that people communicate online now. They're great for signposting and for stopping people to go through that scroll. So if you can make your point in 100 words, and you can set up a post that nicely stops people in their feed, you've got them. If you're adding link clicks to go and sign up for stuff, it makes it very, very complicated. So and there are ways to do it.
Right, right.
Does that make sense? Does that add a bit?
I mean, I think you're preaching to the choir here. It's just sometimes it's difficult to push back to the lawyers. So, you know, they'll go to this event and they'll say, okay, I want you to post this. So how would you recommend we have that conversation with that lawyer? What questions should we turn around and ask? Like, it would be a bit, not abrasive, but a bit, you know, I would be a bit apprehensive to say, oh, so what value is this providing to the audience if we post this on the front page?
So what? Yeah, I get you. Synopsis of what they talked about, get them to give you the bullet points that were the key things that they gave, because I'm sure their talk is normally structured around 3 or 5 bullet points. It's you know, the basic speech will normally be that way. Mm-hmm. Just ask for that information and ask them a very simple question like, if I was at the other end of this conversation, if I was in that audience, what were the key takeaways? And then we'll craft that into a post. It's the ability to just shrink stuff down to make it maximum value, minimum time that I spend. Because I had a lawyer client. I saw him post a photo. He tagged in 15 people that were at the event. He tagged the institute that ran the event. He tagged his own firm. He had some crazy hashtags. He had all this going on. Nice picture of him. And my comment was, can you tell me what you talked about? Yeah. because there's a big problem with tagging in lots of people. For instance, if you tag in lots of people and those people are not active on LinkedIn, that squashes the reach of the post immediately. And I could see by looking at the people who he tagged in that they weren't all active. So that was going to cause him a problem right away. He'd used more hashtags than he needed to, and none of the hashtags were really relevant to what he was talking about. But take all that away, he hadn't given us information. It was just, look at me, I'm on a podium. Yeah. So that ability to turn it around as a BD person is to actually find a way to get to the nub of what problem that talk solved, because the lawyer will have crafted that talk to give that information out. And if you have to add a bit of poetic license to it, to be able to start to ask questions in posts, even from a company perspective or helping an individual lawyer with a post, you have to encourage engagement today. And if you're not getting engagement on posts, LinkedIn specifically is looking for posts that it will help to promote that have opportunities for people to engage with them. And the simplest way to do that is to ask questions. You know,
treat it like a conversation, right? I mean, this is social media is all there to be social, right?
It's not a human to human. With people buy from people, we all know that, right? 80% of people on LinkedIn are buyers. They put their hands up. This document that I'm reading here, just out of interest, came to me this morning. LinkedIn teamed up with Edelman to survey 1,300 business decision makers about the impact of thought leadership on buying decisions. 52% said thought leadership is an important way to vet an organization. Now, that's not, I want an award, that's here's our thinking packaged in a way that you can understand it. 45% said thought leadership has led them directly to award business to a company. That's not me, that's LinkedIn's data through a third-party source. So if you think LinkedIn has 650 million members, around about that, active members right now. I think the number is slightly greater than 90% have never posted content. They're stalking, they're looking for people that have thought leadership, they have ideas in place. Let's look at Kaushik talking about looking at what I'm saying, because it's tips and hints and advice, and it's giving people information on what works. This makes you stand out, and it makes people realize that not everything you're saying is trying to push people to come and buy from you.
Yeah.
If you're responsible for the right thinking and ideas, then naturally people will start to gravitate towards you, and you'll be front of mind. And the opportunity for lawyers in here, and the conversation to have with lawyers, probably lawyers at the more junior end of the spectrum than the senior end, because these guys and girls are kind of like, I'm done, I don't want to be online all day, I've got big cases to work on. But it's the slightly more junior people that if they cement their position right now as the expert in technology, M&A, infrastructure, corporate, whatever, that the opportunity then over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years to cement that and become that thought leader, they will become the go-to person. We all know what a go-to person for the things that we're interested in.
That's right.
So that's the opportunity that there is.
It's, consistency, right? Regularity.
Yeah.
All you need to do is take 20 minutes every Wednesday and Friday or whatever schedule you have to engage with people.
I would go a bit further than that. I think 20 minutes every Wednesday and Friday is not enough. I advocate daily activity. I'm putting stuff out 7 days for a reason, because I'm testing things all the time for clients and I'm getting people to understand. But the best networkers always show up, right? Regardless of what the topic, face-to-face events, they're always there. They're part of the conversation when the conversation's happening. Thankfully, LinkedIn is now letting posts have a longer shelf life, so posts are lasting longer. They're showing up in feeds for 7 to 10 days, where they used to have a life of like 2 or 3 days. And
I've noticed that. I'll see a week from a post from a week ago or something, and
2 weeks, some cases. Now that's good, because it means it gives other people that aren't so frequent the opportunity to jump on. But the best networkers are there frequently, and they're part of the conversation. Now, there are ways of engineering the systems and playing with them to make yourself be the most relevant commenter. You can add, the more comments you add to posts, the better. If you can get some back and forth in comments, it really works well. You need to have comments that have context. You need to be starting conversations yourself through your own content. But there is a place to say that for you guys with limited time, even with 30 minutes a day, you can boost the number of profile views you get, which are one of the most important metrics, because that means people are looking at you, they're looking at your profile, looking at what you're about, which is important. You can increase your followers, which amplifies your audience when you're sharing content, and you can increase your connections. Now, in 30 minutes a day, you can do some real damage. You can really improve and increase your profile and all the good metrics that go with it. And then you have to learn the next steps. And the thing for me that I find very interesting, when I work with people and help them to understand how these tools work, their eyes kind of like pop out from the street. And I think, look, That's great. That's good for me. Of course, it's good for my team and everybody that we work with. But for you guys in professional services in these roles, the opportunity is for you to become the thought leader in BD.
Mm.
Become the person that shows up to every networking event, i.e., a post that's out there with a nice topic that you can comment on. Start to improve your profiles. Start to work on building your own networks around things like this, and you'll find that you'll start to stand out and your career will start to change because people will come and look at you and they'll want you on their team because these skills that we're talking about here are not going away and they're becoming more and more and more important as we go.
Hence me starting the BD Roundtable. That
Yeah,
was
exactly. It's a great example. It's a great example, Will. And I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be that you create this kind of forum. You've done very well by doing that, and all credit to you for doing that. But everybody that's showing up for these calls, again, it's an opportunity for you to go away and write a post about the 3 things you learned today.
Mm.
Tag me, like whatever. It's you can connect with me. I'll connect with you. Tell me that you came to the talk today. Ask me a question directly through LinkedIn. Send me a direct message. Direct messages through LinkedIn play a role in engagement. LinkedIn is looking for you to communicate and connect with people. So if you shy away from using the tools, it won't help you to grow. The more you use the tools, the more it'll help you to grow. So
Okay.
yeah, all this stuff is useful.
Thanks so much for your time, Ian.
That's
For all
all right.
those watching the call, please do connect with Ian. I'll put the links in the description. Again, thanks so much for your time, Ian.
That's cool.